everybody. Welcome to this lovely author Q&A. We've got Justin Myers with us, who is the author of The Fake Up, which is publishing today. So congrats, Justin. Do you want to give us a quick elevator pitch for The Fake Up? Tell us what it's about. What are we looking forward to?
Okay, assuming this is a lengthy elevator ride. Dylan is an aspiring actor and Flo is a singer-songwriter, and they're both from very different backgrounds, and they love each other against all odds. They're like, in their heads, they're the last of the great romantics. But their friends all think it's a toxic and codependent relationship, and outside pressures force them to split. Turns out they can't live without each other after all, so they reunite and they date in secret, and then everything changes and success comes knocking for them in their chosen careers, and their entire futures depend on pretending that they're still broken up, because now it's not just their friends and family they have to fool, the entire world is watching.
Amazing. Okay, so The Fake Up completely sort of flips that traditional fake dating trope on its head, and I just wondered how you sort of decided that you were going to flip it like that.
Well, if I'm honest, I hadn't really noticed that there were so many books about fake dating before I started writing The Fake Up. I read a few of them, but I actually got the idea from Adele, as in the singer Adele.
Okay.
I was reading, back when I started writing The Fake Up in 2019, I was reading reports about her divorce, which obviously is still big news because she wrote a whole album about it. But when her divorce has been reported, I saw loads of commentators saying things like, oh, well, at least she'll get a decent album out of this. Her last one was way too happy, you know, and she works best when she's mining her own pain for material. Like loads of people saying it. And I thought, God, this is really distasteful for a start, because this is like a horrendous thing that's happened in her life.
Yeah.
It also fascinated me, and you find inspiration in the strangest of places. And I thought, what must it be like to be so restricted by people's perceptions of you that it influences almost everything you do and the way you have to behave. You know, you're so restricted by how other people see you. And it came into that idea of, you know, your career, not just your career, but your relationship with your friends and family being dependent on hiding who you really are.
I mean, what a really lovely plug for Adele there.
Yeah. Waiting for the free copies of the album to come through. Nothing yet.
If you liked this, you'll love this.
There you go. Exactly. We should be next to each other in the shops.
Yes. It's really interesting. I think it's a really funny exploration of, like you said, that just being in the public eye must be really difficult to go through those things publicly, when really you just want everyone to stay out of your business.
Yeah, exactly. It must be such a strange feeling. I don't know how people with even the tiniest bit of profile cope with that.
No. So there's a really lovely moment where Max discusses coming to terms with sexuality, and he says, you don't wrestle with your sexuality. It's not a tiger. It didn't consume me. I've lived alongside it, waiting for it to get bigger than me, so I'd have to talk about it. What was that like to write, and what do you hope readers take away from that moment?
Well, I've had quite a lot of comments, you know, from people who've read early copies of the book. I've had a lot of comments on that scene, and lots of LGBTQ people especially have mentioned it. And, you know, Laura Kay, who wrote The Split, she actually said to me that it was one of the best depictions she'd read of what it was like to grow up gay. Cool. But like all alleged masterpieces, you know, for example, I Should Be So Lucky by Kylie, it took me 3 minutes to write, and I didn't even particularly think of it as being anything outstanding or special, because it's just true.
Yeah.
And I think maybe a lot of coming of age writing described growing up gay as you know, as my experience is, obviously I grew up gay, as a constant state of turmoil. Yeah. That you're always utterly miserable and can think of nothing else, and that it, you know, as Max said, that it does consume you. And that might be true of some people, but not for many people that I've met. And there are moments of pain, yes, and anguish and all that. But as Max says, it's something that you live alongside it, and you are frightened of it maybe,
Yeah.
But it's like a little secret, but it's not all there is to you. So you can still be a happy person, you can still get on with your life, and you can't imagine what it might be like for this huge thing not to be a secret. You assume it will always just be something you have to push away or pretend isn't happening. Yeah. So I suppose what I would want readers to take away from it is that gay or bi or trans or non-binary or generally, you know, queer children or young people, they're not victims.
Yeah.
You know, they're not always in pain. They're just human beings trying to get by and get on with their lives. And that the responsibility shouldn't really be on them to try to convince the world to accept them, that they have a right to exist. Really, it should be up to everyone else to make the room, to make them welcome and treat them as human beings with all those wonderful complexities that every human being has, and not just that particular one. Because, you know, being LGBTQ is a huge part of your life, but, you know, there's other stuff happening.
Yeah, we're more than our sexuality.
Yeah.
I personally, as a reader and as a LGBTQ reader, did feel that. So congrats, you did that. Felt really sort of welcomed by that. And I think you are exactly right in that it isn't a consuming, it's just part of who I was like growing up.
Yeah, and to give that piece context, Dylan is a straight guy, and he's asking Max what it is like to be gay because of an acting role he has where he has to kiss another man, where he's playing a bisexual man, and he's asking Max for his expertise, and Max is just like, you know, this isn't my specialist subject of mastermind. This is this is a part of my life. Yeah.
Honestly. So we talked earlier about celebrity culture, and you do make so many interesting points in the book, and just sort of the way that we as regular non-celebrity people objectify and, you know, request access to and, you know, sometimes verbally attack celebrities. And at one point Flo even, you know, sort of thinks, you know, fuck the internet and everyone who swims in its sewage. Was that sort of an important message for you to include? And, you know, why do you think that we as normal people feel that we know celebs?
I find fame as a concept very interesting in how it makes people behave from all angles. And every side of it seems to come with its own pitfalls. And I wouldn't want to make judgments about people who seek fame who are famous. It's something I'm not interested in myself at all, just to be clear. It looks horrendous, but you only have to look at their reality shows or their interviews to, or how they behave at awards shows, to know that famous people are usually deeply weird and exist on another plane that's completely different from anything us mere mortals would experience. And I think with the Fake Up, I got to explore what it might be like for a normal person to experience fame and be trapped by it. And that's what I'm interested in, how ordinary people deal with extraordinary things that happen to them. And I'm online a lot, and I see how people talk to celebrities and how the celebrities talk back on social media. And there's a feeling, I think, that we are too close. We have too much access. The filters have all gone. And I think it leads to an audience to believe that they're part of something, that they're in that inner circle. But in reality, the barriers are still up, because the celebrity is only showing what they want you to see. You're not invited to their parties. You are not invited to their house. You know, restraining orders happen if you turn up at their front door. You know, there's a veneer of accessibility that I think is confusing to both the star and the fan, because you feel like you're really in it, but you're not at all. And for example, in the Fake Up, when Dylan sees criticism on Twitter, on social media, he starts replying to fans as if he were just anyone, like defending his TV show from negative comments. But Flo, as a woman on the internet and in the public eye, does no such thing, knowing it won't get her anywhere, and it will probably make things worse, and just makes the lines between celebrity and civilian, I think they call them, which they both believe they are normal people still, of course. It makes the lines dangerously blurred. So I don't think this is necessarily a new phenomenon or even something that started with social media. I think the culture around celebrity journalism and gossip changed maybe a decade and a half ago, it kind of shifted from being quite reverent to stars, and worshipping them and just having that respect and respecting the boundaries, and not pushing too hard with questions, kind of the perfectly media managed images of celebrity. It became more mocking and critical and intrusive, the zoom lenses, and basically when stars stopped giving interviews, the magazines had to fill themselves somehow, and so it became much less of a balanced relationship. And I think once those pedestals were toppled, fans and casual observers maybe lost that respect that the mystique of celebrity had kept in place, and it meant that fans were more empowered to criticize the stars, because everyone seems like an ordinary person when you're watching them make a salad on Instagram or whatever.
And I think also that rise of, like you said, like people like Adele who were just normal people, they have that sort of relatability. And I think people forget that they're now not normal people anymore.
Isn't it interesting actually to watch Adele struggle with this now?
Yeah.
As she has been with the last campaign, this real persona. She lives in LA.
Yeah.
And she was talking all about, healing and gong baths and stuff. And, the kind of she's proper LA. Yeah. And yet we still see her as a real person. Though she gave an interview with one of the magazines where she was talking about British food and puddings and, dipping chips in ketchup. I think it was with Vogue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All very real, but she's sitting there in, goodness knows what the gown was, and perfectly made up. And she's in LA, and I think, she seemed real for a long time, but I think that it's becoming more confusing now for everybody. Is Adele a real person or not? She can't possibly be a real person. She can't go out, without being recognized.
Without being mobbed.
Yeah, and I think I included it in this kind of fame angle and this downside of fame, because first of all, I really like Jackie Collins' early books where she talks about the downsides of being successful in a very raw way, before she got proper blockbuster Hollywood. And I think it's something that everyone, especially women in the public eye, would have to deal with at some point. And I wondered if adding it in, this very real edge to celebrity, it might make people stop in their tracks a bit and wonder if they were part of the problem.
Yeah.
So I think we all have been at some point. Excuse me. We've all been guilty maybe of firing off that reply to a celebrity or quote tweeting them with saying something quite mean, or atting them in a bad review of their work. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
We're begging, please don't.
Please don't do that. Main reason, right, is because reviews, for example, are for readers. They're not for the authors. Good reviews are useful because we can share them and promote the book, obviously. So I understand being tagged in those. But with a bad review, I can't do anything with that.
Except sit and feel bad about it.
I'm not going to share that with everyone unless it's really funny. Unless it's funny.
Yeah.
Unless it's like such a horrendous review that I couldn't possibly take it seriously. Yeah. But really it ends here. And I think we've all been guilty of that. I've definitely done that in the past, before I was an author, not about books maybe, but TV shows and stuff.
Yeah,
maybe not atted them, but and people do search themselves.
Yeah.
As Dylan, I think, does. He searches the hashtag around his name.
Yeah.
He's super vain, but doesn't admit it.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I was going to bring up the bad review things. I think on a smaller level, it's the same. It's the same thing as getting involved in that wider celebrity culture. So yeah, I'm glad you also brought it up.
Well, because it doesn't even work on a customer service level, because you can't go back and change the things in the book. That there's nothing I can do about the book now. It's out there. They get really annoyed if you say, once it's on the shelves, by the way, I need to take out page 37. And I can't give you your money back, really. I could give you my royalties back. I mean, you post coins through the post. But, it's not something I can do anything with. And I'd rather not see them. But you still have your right to leave a bad review. Of course you do. And they are a part of the process. And as an author, If you go looking, then you have to take the consequences, which Dylan does do. He goes looking, and that's the problem. But if the reviews find you, if they seek you out, then it's not necessarily a terrible feeling, because it's just a review. It doesn't, negate the book out of existence.
Yeah.
But, it's still a bit, you think about it for at least half an hour.
And then what?
And then you think about the bad review that came before it. Remember that one?
And really just start to question your existence.
Yeah, I have a technique. I have a coping mechanism for this, by the way.
Any authors out there who are going through the same?
Anyone out there who puts their work out and has a bad review, go on to Goodreads or Amazon or Waterstones or wherever you read your reviews of books, and find a book that you absolutely loved, and read the bad reviews of it, the 1 or 2 star reviews. Filter them out and read the 1 or 2 star reviews, and you'll be like, oh God, how strange that people hated this book that I loved, because it's just opinions. And you never know what a bad reviewer is feeling at the time, or what kind of other books they like, or whether they feel misled by the synopsis or judged it by its cover. There's so many different criteria that you could just never satisfy them all. So yeah, I like to go and look at the reviews of Rebecca or Adrian Mole, 1 or 2 star reviews of those books, and I'm like, what? There you go. Everyone's a critic.
So much of the fake up sort of is about playing a role, and Flo plays the wronged woman, and Dylan is the Lothario, and Jesse is your sexually ambiguous heartthrob. And was that theme always going to be a heart of that story? And yeah, do you think most people pretend in some sense, and if so, why?
Yeah, pretense is an overlying theme of all my books, actually. We're all pretending. We're all different people depending on where we are and who we're with, and how safe it is to be ourselves. Because the fake up is really, it's about one of the biggest pretenses of all, the great performance of so many people's life. It's an allegory for being in the closet. Of course it is.
Yay!
But using straight main characters to tell the story. Yeah, it's about being in the closet.
And there we go.
So there we go. That's what it's about. Dylan and Flo can't escape people's perceptions of them. They're frightened of what people will say when they reveal the truth. Sound familiar? So there we go.
So Flo and Dylan come from completely different backgrounds, and sort of their arguments over, minor things like the waste paper basket versus the bin, or, things like that. They seem to hint at a bigger issue. Were you always going to explore class tension with the two of them?
Absolutely. I find it really interesting to, what is life like when you are trying to make it in a world where you have to be rich or already fortunate or well connected to make it. I come from a working class background, and I see how, and I've still been very lucky in things I've done, but I see how that not getting that jump start has delayed my career. Yeah, really. And I didn't get my book deal until I was 40, and it kept me from achieving things I could have done years ago. Maybe, who knows? We'll never know. No. But it's always something I've wanted to tackle, and it's not just a class thing, really. But nepotism, or favoring people, or making judgments based on appearance, background. That way that if you look up an actor on Wikipedia, you'll see often their parents' names are in blue, which means they have their own Wikipedia pages. And it always feels like so few people are the originator of their success, that they didn't have a helping hand somehow. I mean, Adele actually is a good example of someone who really did come from absolutely nowhere. Yeah, okay. And the fact is that if you're in a relationship with someone from a different background, this will come up unless one of you hides certain things about yourself or tries to keep up, and I admit that at times, I suppose, these differences can be highlighted in the fake up in a slightly cartoonish way. Yeah. Like there's an early scene with Flo's parents about a meal and using the wrong forks, and and the not being able to crack a bit of lobster. But these are real issues, and the waste paper basket in the bin is just another example of just those little differences that feel insignificant, but can end up turning into something. And the thing about complaining about unfairness or being less fortunate or a less connected person is that you're either ignored, or you're called bitter, or you're frozen out because you make the privileged people feel awkward.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to explore that because Flo has a group of friends who are super privileged and have had more or less everything handed to them. And they just, I think Dylan just generally makes them feel a bit icky about how the world actually is, because I think nobody likes to have their privilege pointed out to them, do they? And so it makes Dylan's life quite uncomfortable. And Dylan, in a way, obviously has privileges of his own.
Yeah.
He's a white, cisgender, straight man who does find success, and his gay, Black best friend has had a very different journey from him.
Yeah.
So everyone, is on a hierarchy, and these levels shift all the time. But what you find is, if you are a less privileged person in some way, you will find that it will compensate. So one little thing that you manage to claw back will probably take something away somewhere else.
It's really interesting. And I think, like you said, with the sliding scales of privilege, and everything's situational when it comes to privilege.
Exactly.
Because like you said, Dylan has that privilege of being a white, straight, cisgendered man. But in some situations, that won't be a privilege for him.
Yeah, and the thing about privilege is that you don't notice it until it's taken away from you, or until someone says, by the way, you've kind of got it quite good.
You're a white straight man.
Yeah, and same with Flo as well. With her background, she feels like she's never been encouraged by her parents into her career, who want her to go into something more stable. But she had music lessons, and she took part in open mic shows and talent shows, which she eventually later denies to make herself look cooler when she's in the public eye. So we're all aware. I think if we are honest with ourselves and we stop to think for a while, we are all aware of the advantages we've had.
So coming to the end, and don't want to ruin it for anybody, but the ending is such a surprise for a rom-com. Were you always writing your ending that way, or was it something that sort of evolved as you were writing the book?
Yeah, I feel I should point out that this very heavy book is a romantic comedy. I do think that actually that romantic comedies very often have much more to say than people might think.
Yeah, 100%. They've got such a bad rep, haven't they, of being like cheesy and feel good, and then they're a lot deeper than people allow them.
Yeah, there's room for cheesy and feel good, and they are brilliant books in themselves. But the kind of romantic comedy I like to read and write, as it turned out, is ones that are perhaps about something else. Yeah. And the romance is just something that kind of takes you along through the journey and helps you through the journey. People like Vary McFarlane and Lindsay Kelk and Marion Keyes. Their romantic comedies are always have something else going on. There's no an overarching theme. So as for the ending of the Fake Up, it's exactly as I wrote it in the first draft. Not a word was changed. Wow. And I was quite surprised because I think it's the first time that I haven't changed the ending slightly. Yeah. So that last chapter, which we won't spoil, did not change at all. It's almost exactly as it was in the very first vomit draft, as they say. That's amazing. And I suppose it is a surprise ending, but possibly not a surprise ending for anyone who's read my books before.
Right. Okay. Final question, and then I think you can do a very quick reading for us. Did you have a favorite character while writing?
To write, yes. Well, I write characters that say awful things. So I suppose I thought about this, and I suppose my favourite characters to write were Max, who is Dylan's best friend from childhood, and Lois, who is an actor friend of Dylan's who they used to date years ago, and she is like a ballsy American. And is amazing. And Tanya, who is an agent who spots Flo at a show, and she is very she's very ballsy. Again, she's just very, very tough and speaks at a million miles an hour. So like writing her dialogue was just literally a stream of consciousness, which is always fun to write. So yeah, those three, I think they all have something to say for themselves. They're quite exhausting in a way, and they all give Dylan and Flo hell. And I quite like to give my main characters a rough ride. You know, this ain't no country club.
Can't give them it too easy. They're already the main characters.
Exactly. You've got everything. You've got your privilege. This is not going to be fun for you.
Yeah.
Not one of my books.
Easy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, would you mind doing a very quick reading for us?
Sure. I'm going to read it off my screen. So if it kind of looks like my eyes are tracking down there, I'm not falling asleep. I'm just reading it off my screen. I thought, because we mentioned it earlier, I thought I would read the full monologue-ish of when Max and Dylan are having dinner together, and Dylan has recently secured an acting role playing a bisexual man, and he wants to ask Max, his gay best friend, what it's like to kiss a man. Okay?
That's absolutely great.
Good. It's really short. Okay. So they're in a restaurant. A nice restaurant. I need to know the pain and anguish, said Dylan, that my character will be channeling. He's wrestling with his sexuality. It's consumed him. Max rolled his eyes. Channeling. God. You don't wrestle with your sexuality. It's not a tiger. It didn't consume me. I lived alongside it, waiting for it to get bigger than me, so I'd have to talk about it. That's the thing with gay kids, or bi ones, or trans kids too, I guess. It doesn't eat us alive. We don't exist in permanent anguish. Dylan began to wish he'd taken notes. What do you mean? This happened right before your eyes, said Max. When we were growing up, did you never clock it? Max rested his hands on his chin. He seemed older, wearier than ever before. Gay kids, we go to school, we queue for lunch, we listen to the teacher, we do our homework, get the bus, we watch telly, we enjoy it, we laugh. Yeah, there's sleepless nights, but not every night. Life goes on, we pine a bit, worry a bit, and we bury it. He sat up straight, almost looking right through Dylan. It's not a secret or shameful, it's a thing you can't acknowledge or explain, because once you do, there's no going back. Before you dare to put a name to what you are, you can't imagine what life would be like if everyone knew. You think it can never happen. Coming out, it's what you long for, but at the same time, it's what you're scared of most. The crushes are the hardest. When you're young and gay, so much time is just looking, never finding. I spent half my life looking across rooms at men who don't know I'm alive, or worse, actually do know I'm alive, but don't care. Hoping they'll notice me, might feel the same, break the spell, get it out in the open. These feelings, they starve you and they feed you, and they don't care about you, but they give you hope. That day I told my mum and dad, do you remember? They said they hated the sin, not the sinner, as if that made it better. I said there's no such thing as sin, just things you won't do that I will. Max's eyes began to well up. He was so still, so calm and quiet. It was unnerving, yet Dylan didn't want him to stop. He was staring something so powerful right in the face. So, said Max, when I kiss a man, that's who I'm thinking about. The boy who I was, who I thought I'd always be, what he wanted, what he was frightened of, all that future ahead of him that he thought he'd never get to experience. Every time a guy kisses me, he's setting that boy free. That's it.
That was so great. It was so, there just never is like a moment where I don't listen to an author read their own work and I'm like, God, that was so amazing.
I'm so sorry that I forgot to explain before I started that Max and Dylan are Northern. If people wondered why I did a Northern accent, there's my home accent.
There's no one that is watching this that's probably not from the North that will have even picked up that anything's changed. But it's like,
I am Northern. I am from the same place that Dylan and Max are from, but I don't have that accent anymore. But I used it for Max. It's halfway through, isn't that thinking?
Yorkshire, but my accent was beaten out of me
same,
by my London colleagues.
Same. I chucked mine away on the M1 out the window.
Yeah. And the railway is living somewhere just on its own. Well, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. And like we said at the beginning, the Fake Cup is out today. So congratulations. I hope you're doing something fun to celebrate.
I'm probably going to go and buy myself some lovely tulips, like on the cover.
Nice.
That's probably as much as I'll do.
Pathetic.
Yes, it's enough.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, anyone who is going to read the book, let us know. We would love to chat to you about it, and obviously go and chat to Justin about it. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Char.